Watchers in the Fourth Dimension.
I'm not spending all afternoon exploring a Cro-Magnon cave.
You must...
Look after him, won't you? Gets into the most terrible trouble.
Hello and welcome back to Watchers in the Fourth Dimension. I'm Anthony.
I'm Diana.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Reilly. And wretched citizens of Sarn, you turn your backs on the Lord of the Fire Mountain and listen to his enemy.
This episode, Reilly screams in anger as the Master returns in Planet of Fire. But before we get into that, the man himself, Reilly that is, not the Master, is going to take a quick look at the mail. Over to you, Reilly.
I will do my scream later, but first the mail. Our mail for this time is going to be on our Warriors of the Deep episode. And we have Beardo Beatnik on Discord who writes in with, "Thank you, Watchers, for trudging through this mess of a story. This story is so overly lit. I wonder why everyone isn't wearing super sci-fi future Ray-Ban sunglasses. I, for one, at this point, am fed up with the Fifth Doctor and think it's time for him to fuck right off. Wow, okay. Love the Merca, and I'm sad it was amongst the high body count. R.I.P. Merca. We hardly got a chance to know you. 3 out of 10 poorly chosen kung fu chops." Wow. All right. That's some strong words against the Fifth Doctor. I can understand. Now, over on Facebook, our good friend Alan Seiler writes, "This story is so close to being great. There are so many elements that work in its favor. The model work is excellent, as is the set design. Tony Burrows was the standout designer of that era. I really love the sculpt of the new monster masks. I thought the samurai look for the Sea Devils was kind of silly, and while their faces look beautiful, I absolutely hate the loss of their regal head fins. The tension of the story in part 1 is superb, and for the most part, the story overall works well. Where this falls down is in the characterization of the title warriors who become little more than generic monsters, and the reduction of the Sea Devils to the station of lackeys is very disappointing. Reilly makes an excellent point, thank you, that the story could have benefited from a little tension between the Sea Devils and the Silurians. I kept thinking during the war between the land and the sea that while the Sea Devils, Homo Aqua, eye roll emoji was written in right after he said that, were wrecking the planet, what must the Silurians have thought about that? Anyway, I like the one in spite of some of its problems, but it still doesn't rank very highly for me. I give it 5.5 pantomime seahorses out of 10. And finally, The Sea Derps is one of your best show titles ever." That is a good one. Brian Moreau writes in to say, "It should be mentioned that this episode starred the show on the road to being canceled in 1989. Well, I'm glad we are on the downward slope, I guess." Thank you, Brian. David Gordon writes, Warriors on the cheap, as we called it back in the day. Glad you mentioned Johnny Byrne's history on Space 1999, as this does come across as a discarded script from that series. And bearing in mind what did go to air on that show, the last thing you want to pick up are the ones that didn't. I do have to correct you on one thing, though, because contrary to what you stated, not everybody dies. There is one survivor from the guest cast, the character of Bullock. I may be pronouncing that wrong. That's because I totally forgot of him, like everyone else. Well, Bullock, we're informed by David Gordon, was the base's second in command, and David believes is still alive at the end of Part 4 because he was last seen pumping gas into the ventilation shafts. A lot of the problems here stem from the lighting. This seems to be a common complaint, as stated by the panel. Had the Merca been kept in as much darkness as possible, then it may have been more effective. As it is, it looks awful. Not much else to add above and beyond what was said, giving this a generous 3 other ways out of 10. Chris Nelson writes, "I like the story. It's the Merca that does it wrong for me. Just the Merca for Chris. Fair enough." Kieran James Evans writes, "There should have been another way. Yes, there fucking should have been." I've heard some people defend this saying the script is good and it's the production that lets it down. Have you heard the dialogue? And great use of Chekhov's hexachromite gas. The water tank stunt could have killed Davison as they forgot to let the water warm up to room temperature before use. 3 good ideas trapped in a sea of melted bodies out of 10. It's interesting with the mail this time for Warriors of the Deep that there's people that just downright hate it, and then there are people that believe it could have been much better and it isn't as horrible as everyone is saying. So it's a good balance of views here. Over on Instagram, the 12th Rising writes, "There is a decent story here with a doctor trying but failing to stop everyone on the sea base, as well as the Silurians and the Sea Devils from wiping each other out. But it's hampered by the rush production caused by Margaret Thatcher announcing the 1983 general election for June that year, which meant studio space at the BBC became limited as it was needed for programs on the election. I think if it had the required amount of production and studio time, the end result could have been improved upon. Why on earth nobody in the production team thought about reducing the lighting for the sea base sets after, during, and after the attack by the Sea Devils is beyond me. So much more menace and mystery could have been created with the lighting turned right down. Warriors of the Deep probably suffers most from being overlit in stories from the 1980s. And the guest casts leave a lot to be desired. A few are okay, but a lot are not. And as for the infamous scene of Ingrid Pitt trying to kickbox the Merca, why didn't someone say no? That said, I'm looking forward to seeing what has been done to the story for the new version prepared for the upcoming Season 21 Blu-ray box set with new edits of the episode's 5.1 surround sound and updated special effects. I feel very ignorant about this. I had no idea that those Blu-ray box sets gave all that to it with a surround sound and new special effects and new edits.
So normally they pick one story in each season to give that treatment to.
And they chose Warriors of the Deep?
Because it's probably the one that needs the most help.
And wrapping up, Guy Lambert writes in with what I really enjoy: listened, laughed, loved. That's our new 3 special words here on the podcast, I guess. So that's the mail, and I'll hand it back over to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Reilly. Listen, laugh, love. I like that better than live, laugh, love. Anyway, as a reminder, we really do love getting your feedback, thoughts, comments, and questions. And as you've just heard, we do try to read out as many as possible on the show. So please do get in touch. As always, you can contact us through Facebook and Instagram at Watchers4D, or you can email us at watchers4d@gmail.com. You can also interact with all 4 of us on our Discord server, and an invite link to that is in the show blurb. Of course, some of us are more active on that than others, but some of us have more time. Reilly's busy. All right.
Hey.
Reilly is busy.
I am, but I'm on there.
Additionally, we would absolutely love it if you subscribe to the podcast if you're not doing so already, and if you dropped us a review or rating on your podcast platform of choice. Now, welcome to our behind the scenes segment, where we delve into the making of Doctor Who's Planet of Fire. Let's travel back to late 1982, when an unexpected strike by the BBC Electricians Union threw a wrench into the planned recording of Enlightenment for the show's 20th season. Director Fiona Cumming, taking advantage of the downtime, ventured to Lanzarote, a beautiful island off the coast of Morocco in Spain's Canary Islands. Little did she know, this holiday would soon influence the series in a major way. Once production resumed, the schedule shifted dramatically. The studio dates for Enlightenment overtook those originally set for the intended season finale, The Return. That story, of course, would ultimately be reworked and aired as Resurrection of the Daleks, which we covered last episode. These changes set the stage for the next adventure, and the ripples were felt throughout the production process. Inspired by Lanzarote's unique landscape, Cummings sent a postcard to producer John Nathan Turner suggesting the island as a potential filming location. Doctor Who had just filmed in Amsterdam for Arc of Infinity, and Nathan Turner was enthusiastic about sending the show abroad at least once every season. He was thrilled to discover the budget could accommodate a week of filming on Lanzarote. Meanwhile, script editor Eric Saywood wanted to make amends with Peter Grimwade, who was disappointed after his work as director on The Return was scrapped. Saywood offered Grimwade a scripting slot for season 21, leading to the commission of Planet of Fire. Grimwade faced numerous creative challenges: the unfamiliar Lanzarote locale, the need to accommodate various cast departures, including the lead up to Peter Davison, Mark Strickson, and of course Janet Fielding, all of them planned to leave in the space of 3 stories, and of course the introduction of a new companion, Gilliam, or Peri, Brown. Grimwade initially planned to feature Lanzarote as 2 distinct locations: the Greek island of Iskalos and the alien planet Sarn, to capitalize on the island's diverse scenery. However, an agreement with the Lanzarote Tourist Board required the Earthbound scenes to be set explicitly on the island, forcing Grimwade to rewrite and drop certain historical elements. He also needed to write out Turlough and Chameleon, the latter due to technical difficulties and the tragic loss of one of the props developers. Balancing all of these departures, Grimwade also brought back the Master, played by Anthony Ainley, whose contract was ending. And I hear Reilly cheering. The writing process itself brought new hurdles. Peri Brown's character, created by Nathan Turner and Saywood, had to avoid American stereotypes, and her background changed as the script evolved, from being wealthy and blonde to becoming the brunette we now know thanks to Nicola Bryant's casting. Some elements, like her bonding with the Doctor because he reminded her of her late father, were dropped. Grimwade was also frustrated when his commentary on religious zealotry was toned down, as well as by casting choices that altered his vision for certain characters. With Cumming directing, Many familiar faces returned to the production team, including Corin Hollingworth as production manager, Malcolm Thornton as designer, and Peter Howell as composer. Costume designer John Peacock also makes his only contribution to the show. Cumming was very excited to cast Peter Wingard as Timonov, although his initial interpretation of the character nearly led to some peculiar acting choices before settling on a more dynamic direction. Filming began in Lanzarote in October 1983, with the crew and cast exploring locations like Playa del Papagayo, Mirador del Rio, Orzola, and the Montañas del Fuego within the Timanfaya National Park, and I apologize for my Spanish pronunciation. The shoot was not without its quirks. Nicola Bryant's first day was interrupted by a well-meaning but confused German nudist who thought that she was actually drowning, and some hotel pool turtles were famously liberated by Peter Wingard and one of the other actors, who released them into the sea, which prompted a visit from the local police. When they got back to London, studio recording was split into 2 blocks at the BBC Television Centre, focusing on various set pieces such as the Unbeliever's Bunker, the Hall of Fire, and, of course, the TARDIS. Notable moments included Gerald Flood reading Chameleon's lines and last-minute script decisions, like the Master's poignant final words to the Doctor being suggested to be "own brother" by Nathan Turner. I'm glad that one never stuck. Anyway, Planet of Fire aired in the usual Thursday and Friday time slot of the season, with the finale following the main Superstars competition. Although Fiona Cumming was expected to return for future seasons, this adventure marked her final directing work for Doctor Who, and it was also Peter Grimwade's last story for the series, as creative and personal differences with Nathan Turner left him incredibly disillusioned. And with that, we're going to head into the short summary, which is with Julie this episode, and I really hope you've got a song for us, Julie.
Well, given the state of my voice, I do not have a song.
Damn.
So I'm going to keep this rather short, although I bet you might guess what I was thinking of doing before this happened. Things I don't really want to be on my Doctor Who checklist yet seem to be: gratuitous amounts of skin shown, tradition being used as an excuse for killing people, poorly designed and distressed robots, Turlough lying through his teeth, teenage girls manipulating their step-parents, the Ainley Master, alien leaders distrusting the Doctor but trusting the Master, and the tissue compression eliminator. Yep, that's right. Basically, we have a story where we introduce a new companion just as we were saying goodbye to our only companion. The Master had an experiment gone wrong situation and uses Chameleon to try and get out of it, but it doesn't quite work, and the Doctor needs to free some people from a tyrannical rule to stop sacrifices. That's basically it.
All right, thank you, Julie. Let's just go ahead and talk about it. Part 1.
Did you want me to do the song something like maybe I Like Short Shorts, because that was in competition?
I was about to say, my very first note, where are their pants?
Everyone, absolutely everyone is pantless. It's amazing.
No, it's not. They're on a volcanic island with all this volcanic rubble around that absolutely would rip the shit out of their legs. There's no way a civilization on a planet like that is running around tightless, pantless. No, absolutely not. At least a pair of protective tights.
Well,
agreed.
Consider Diana annoyed by this.
The whole episode.
Oh, no, it's not even just the shorts. I have some issues with how some of these scenes were shot.
We'll get to it.
Especially given that we had a woman as our director.
Well, I guess we're getting into that very, very soon. But on a lighter note, quarry count?
Actually, none.
What? I guess it was all on location, right? Because it was all in Lanzarote. Oh,
yep.
man.
So it's just a volcanic island, 0 quarries, this story. I think. Let me double check that, because I have been wrong.
A lot of things that you can mine on a volcanic island, maybe that's worth 10 quarries. I don't know.
What I will say, and I don't think I've mentioned it up to this point, is I did miss one in the 5 Doctors, and I have updated our metrics to compensate for that. But no, there were no quarries in this one.
Well, despite short shorts and other issues, the location shooting, like some of those large vistas, looked absolutely great.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely
Yes.
great.
Gorgeous.
I was so confused because I had no idea that they actually did shoot on location until we got to those shots on the boat. I'm like, okay, they're on location. Because at the beginning, like I mentioned earlier, I could have thought it was a quarry, especially when they added that kind of smoke effect. And then even after that, when I saw some of those Vista shots, I was thinking, are they compositing a matte painting into this? That's how good this looks. Like, This is amazing. It really prepares you for something more than just a tight studio boxed in Doctor Who serial.
Comparing it to the shoot in Amsterdam, a much better use of location.
Absolutely 100%. Yes.
And we get, I guess our inciting action is Chameleon screaming from the other room. I honestly thought that he was screaming because everyone forgot about him. And they did mention that we had, but just got lonely out there.
Hey, I, for one, don't really care for Chameleon's return.
I don't really care about Chameleon coming back or not. As we had talked about before, there was no way that Chameleon was going to be fully realized. But the way they used him for this particular story, I actually liked. I thought it was a clever way.
You can tell that they were having struggles with the prop by the fact that he is, throughout the entire story, either the Master or Silver Howard.
Or laying down.
Or lying down.
Laying down. Yep.
That scream could be better, though. That was an unnerving scream.
Well, let's talk about the setup on Sarn, because that's where we start. And it's an interesting society. It's obviously very religious. You've got Logar, who they will worship. And the way they're coded is, in look, very Bedouin.
Mm-hmm.
But equally, there are some very sort of clear references to Christianity with the chosen one, the outsider, the Messiah that's yet to come. And there's even a comment to the Master wanting to be born again.
I would not be surprised on that note if the costumes they use, they didn't pull from Monty Python's The Life of Brian.
Yeah, I see that. I do want to give a shout out to Peter Wingard as Timonov. He is excellent. If any of you have seen Flash Gordon, he is Clytus in Flash Gordon. And he was also the lead in Department S, a character called Jason King, who then got his own spin-off called Jason King. Really love his performance all the way through.
And we get a really ugly looking skin branding shot of two triangles.
Yes, the Mesos triangle on Malkon.
That's what's really interesting about this first episode is that we have 3 different stories going on, and we go halfway through the first episode, and honestly, there's such a very thin, tenuous connection here that I felt like I was flipping through channels on cable TV looking for something to watch. On one channel, there's a biblical epic. On another one, there's a summer romantic comedy, and on the other one has a sci-fi show, because we have we have the people on Sarn. That looks like a biblical epic. We have, of course, on the TARDIS console, sci-fi show. And then we have Peri and I guess the archaeology crew out on the boat. And that just had that kind of, I guess, summer romantic comedy feel.
She wants to go off with these English lads that she's met.
Oh my gosh.
And stepdaddy says no.
Okay, is that what the relationship is between Peri and Howard?
Yeah.
I seriously could not figure that out. It went back and forth. I was like, okay, what is happening here?
It also didn't help that they went from Sarn to the boat without much of a indication that we are actually changing anything.
Yeah.
And so I had this moment where I was like, wait a second. Everybody was just wearing Lawrence of Arabia cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got knockoff Indiana Jones over here. Are we in the same place? Is it the same time? Maybe they have boats. I don't know.
The only thing connecting any of these stories together was that triangle symbol, and that only tied together the Peri storyline and the Sarn story.
And how did it get there?
Don't ask difficult questions, Diana.
That's a very good question. I thought they were going to do like a Lost City of Atlantis kind of story where that's where Sarn was, that it was actually in our past, but no.
Part of why I was confused was because I obviously assumed that this artifact is related to Sarn, but how did it get there from them or Trion or whatever?
And I think the way they should have done that was to have a reference about when Turlough was dropped off on Earth, there had to be some cargo jettisoned or something like that. That would have been the way to do it.
That's too easy, Anthony.
I know.
Isn't the implication still that that thing is from his dad's ship? I forget what was in it.
Yeah, there was like a communication device, I think, on it. But I really want to talk about Howard and Peri.
One, how does a rock look like Elton John? I kept looking at the thing. I'm like, what is she getting at there? And also, the Albuquerque Women's League is getting some serious shade this episode. They should be very upset.
My partner's mom has a dog that looks like Peter Dinklage, so, you know. Let's not judge rocks for looking like Elton John, okay?
I guess it was a crocodile rock.
Hey!
Oh.
I was going to make the Elton John reference later with Hold Me Closer, Tiny Master. Anyway, let's address the elephant in the room. The allegedly American accents.
I have some concerns.
Anthony, the feeling that I'm feeling, is this how English people felt with Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins?
Very much so. And of course, neither Nicholas Bryant nor Dallas Adams are American.
Took me a while to figure out where she was supposed to be from. I literally typed, "Is she American?" I don't know.
I think Nicola Bryant's attempt at an American accent is better than Dallas Adams's. That's probably damning with faint praise, but...
And they're both so focused on that accent the whole time that they can't actually get into the lines they're saying.
I do just want to say Dallas Adams, R.I.P., he died of AIDS in 1991, which is very sad.
Terrible.
Neither of them is particularly likable in part one. Peri is incredibly entitled and bratty, and Howard is just flat out a dick.
I'm kind of siding with him in this, though, because she was being such an entitled little brat. And I honestly am like, good for you, Howard. I would do the same.
No, I actually disagree. I would stand up to Peri rather than saying, you know what, I will let you go, and then strands her on a fucking boat.
He wasn't going to strand her forever just for the hour before she had to go to the airport. That's it.
Then she jumped and nearly drowned and had to be rescued by a ginger alien.
Own fault.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. The part there where she dives into the water, she seems to be swimming just fine. And then all of a sudden, halfway through, she forgets how to swim?
Probably an undercurrent or something.
Sure. Okay. Undercurrent.
That's the headcanon here.
Fair. Fine. I just thought it just felt very convenient.
Oh, it's definitely very convenient.
Now we're kind of on a summer attire thing going on with Doctor Who. Can we discuss everyone's wardrobe? Because that seems to be a very interesting part of part one.
That awkward first shot of Peri's bikini bottoms is the thing that really took me out of it. And I got so upset. And I don't understand why we had to do that shot.
It was giving very attempt at Bond girl, and I did not appreciate it.
It was interesting because it really did feel quite shocking because it wasn't necessarily just the start and then the pan up, but also how zoomed in it was. I mean, we were pretty tight on there, and it was just very surprising to me for the show. I have theories. I think that maybe there was perhaps I don't know where the ratings were for the show at this time and period, but maybe they felt like they needed to do something, I don't know, risque to try to attract viewership. I don't know.
This is JNT with his theory that you have to give something to the dads, right? Literally, he would say one for the dads. That was his thing, which he didn't like women either sexually or as people. So this isn't about his own gratification, but he's doing what he thinks is going to pull in viewers.
I disliked it so much. I was not a fan.
It's interesting because the last time we had something so revealing was with Nyssa, and that also was a serial with a female director, wasn't it?
Yes. Terminus was directed by Mary Ridge. So yes, another female director. So yeah, they're not really standing up for the sisterhood here. But I have to say, Peri in that bikini was very formative for me in my early teens.
I bet.
Put it like that.
Oh my gosh.
It was formative for me, and I'm only 47. Let's face it, though. I mean, we're going to talk about sexual titillation. We have that. But on the other side of the coin, we have Turlough walking around those short shorts. So it evens out, right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're calling that?
That is me being sarcastic. But
yes.
Let's please talk about their summer attire because it was very interesting that only the Doctor would wear a sweater vest to a beach that had fall foliage as the design on it.
Yes, but I love his waistcoat.
It is a beautiful waistcoat.
And I love his question mark suspenders, or braces, as we'd say in England. He has a really great kind of skinny down, simplified look.
I really wish he had taken that jacket off a long time ago. Because the pared back look is honestly a lot more striking.
It's like in The Leisure Hive when the Fourth Doctor loses the scarf and the jacket for a while and is wandering around in a waistcoat.
They don't need to keep their coats all the time. It's got to be hot someplace.
But it was really hot there. I loved their outfit because together they looked like they were two partners on vacation together. It was very quite heartwarming and cute.
Yeah, I didn't actually mind Turlough's shorts. I minded everybody else's that were pulled up so that I could see every detail of their anatomy.
The shorts, okay, but the bathing suit bottom.
Oh, yes.
But that's a thing in Europe. They like their Speedos.
We have that. We had a lot of shirtless men on the boat. We have Peri in her bikini. We have Turlough in his shorty short shorts and his Speedo bikini bottoms. Is this the sluttiest Doctor Who episode ever?
I'd say to date. Let's not say ever. I mean...
I guess for us so far in this watch through, it is. It made me think that maybe they should have called this Planet of Flesh Time. Sorry, Diana.
Oh, God. Why did you go there, Reilly?
Oh, no.
Diana is planning on finding a way to give you lots of oozing goo in revenge
No,
for
I'm
that.
not. I am absolutely not. Less goo, the better.
Oh, boy. Shout out to the Doctor for leaving alien currency to pay for what appeared to be a glass of water. It's like, fuck you, I'm not paying for water. Have some currency you can't use. Legend. All of this starts coming together with Peri on the TARDIS, nearly falling out of her bikini, of course. Turlough finding the device she stole, and he has the same symbol branded on his skin. There was something fairly disturbing when she was slipping in and out of consciousness. The whole element of when she says, no, don't leave me alone, don't turn out the light, no, Howard, don't do it. Like, bloody hell, what sort of abusive history does she have with this man?
I couldn't even go there because the acting was bad.
I was wondering if he's like locks her in closets and stuff like that.
It felt very weird to me. That didn't seem to be completely that relationship, because the weirdness of her starting to get sucked down when she was like out swimming. I thought it was more related to that more than anything, and that maybe even that device kind of did that to her and caused her to start to potentially drown.
That works. Going back to what you were saying when she was, or I guess, sleeping in and out of consciousness, when she was saying those things about Howard, it made me even more confused because I still didn't know what the relationship was between the two of them. So I was just like, what is going on?
For me, I got that they were step related, but they were giving me such like only for the past 2 years kind of a vibe, very recent. Step related. So to have a moment where she's like, oh, Howard, don't turn off the lights. To go from being bold and brash, I'm going to do what I want, I'm going to Morocco, to I'm drowning and now hallucinating from a very casual swim to shore. And throughout the rest of this, Peri goes back and forth between I am a badass and I scream because I turned around. And that duality is not for me. Either be brash or be a screamer, but you can't be both.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have the TARDIS dematerializing, Chameleon Howard showing up, acting as if he's Howard, and poor Peri, she is so very confused when she regains consciousness. She doesn't realize that she's not on Lanzarote, let alone even Earth. They're on a new planet, and the Doctor and Turlough head outside. Howard starts talking about how the TARDIS is mine, and then he turns into the Master, and this is the point at which I imagined Reilly must have been absolutely apoplectic.
I learned something about myself here, and that is, honestly, I did not get that upset. I immediately wrote down, okay, that's -1 point right there. But it's because it wasn't the Master in a stupid disguise. He was controlling Chameleon, so it really was Chameleon, not the Master, so it made it a little bit better. But I'll tell you right now, I actually like the Master in this serial. I know, shocking.
Ooh.
I know. I actually did. And the reason why...
Hang on. Before you give us the reason, who are you and what have you done with Reilly Shrek?
The reason why is that in this serial, I don't know if it was intentional or it was a mistake, but the writing, the action, everything that happens in this serial feels like it is done intentionally to make fun of the Master and smack him around a lot. And I really enjoyed that. I did not have a problem with the Chameleon as Robot Howard as Master. I liked that. I thought that was a good way of bringing the Master in here without having doing one of his stupid disguises. But then when they start beating him up, and then as we get into it later and now we get to the part 4 where he gets really knocked around, I really enjoyed it. It just seems like the writing and the direction also shared a hatred of the Master as well. That's what I got from those. And I enjoyed it, and I thank them for that.
All right. Well, we end part 1 with the iconic I am the Master and you will obey me cliffhanger. Takes us into part 2 where we can actually start to talk about the Master a bit more.
Yeah, it's just a great little bit there. I think it was a clever way of doing it.
Yeah, I do love when Peri then tries to kick the Chameleon Master in the shin, but he's made of metal, and so it just hurts. And then turns back into Chameleon, who's resisting the Master. He so badly wants to be a good boy, but he just can't say no to the Master.
And that was kind of my problem with this, is didn't we just have a storyline where we talked about the guy that's turning off his brainwashing conveniently at the right times for plot points? I get it. And I do think it's a well-constructed plot line for the Master, but it feels very generic at the same time.
I feel a little bit better about it only because Chameleon's not a human being. I can understand a machine malfunctioning and flipping back and forth. Yes, it is convenient, but I always had a problem with inconsistent character that is a human being when it comes to things like that. I'm trying to think, God, I used to read and now I can't remember things anymore. In the Scarlet Letter, is it John Proctor, the priest, that has the affair with Hester Prynne? Is that right? I cannot remember.
Sure.
Anyway, he, throughout the entire book, goes back and forth whether he's going to support her or leave her out on a lurch for having this adulterous affair. And that's all he does the entire time. And it's just like, well, just make up your damn mind. Either screw her over or save her. That annoys me because I just feel like human beings wouldn't be indecisive for that long. In this situation, Chameleon's a machine. He's just like your oven malfunctioning or something. So I'll let it pass.
I do also appreciate that is how, I guess, Chameleon was introduced in the first place. I guess I'll let it pass, too.
You know what this really needs, though? As with all of the flipping back between Chameleon being Chameleon, the Master, and Howard, at some point it needs a rendition of We Sing in Praise of Total War.
Oh, like all distorted and stuff? Oh, that'd be awesome.
Against the infidels or the unbelievers, we are poor.
What I did like, we were mentioning so much earlier about everyone in their summer attire, and then the Master's in a suit, and he looks so uncomfortable.
I liked the shots where he was running over the rocks with his little Nancy hands. He was adorable, just flitting over the rocks in that suit.
I actually think he looks great in a suit. It's kind of a callback to Delgado in The Mind of Evil.
He looks great, but on that island looks uncomfortable.
Okay, yes. I mean, it's pretty hot, so...
He should have just worn a black Speedo.
God, that's an image I don't need, Reilly.
But I think it kind of is leading into what Reilly was talking about with the fact that this episode seems here to just kick around the Master. At no point is he comfortable, ever.
For lack of a better term, he gets the shit kicked out of him. Peri tosses him around, and it really feels like it's an episode where he gets his comeuppance because, sorry to advance it, but the miniaturization element of it all, that's what he was known for. And now he's the one that's getting miniaturized and getting kicked around. It really does feel like that is the point of the serial, and I really like that. Oh, and I have a question. Harry's full name. Can anyone pronounce that first name for me again?
Perpigillium.
That sounds as un-American as her accent. I mean, what type of Harry Potter-ass name is that for an American to have? Perpigillium?
Yeah, no one has that name. That's not real.
Yeah, what a strange choice.
Do you know the canon for where it's supposed to come from?
Don't we get told in The Twin Dilemma in a few stories' time?
Oh, maybe.
How are we supposed to know?
I don't remember.
Well, Diana's seen it before.
That's a detail that probably wouldn't have stuck.
Go on then, Diana. Explain it.
No, I don't know. I don't remember.
I did actually look this up, and Nicola Bryant, in an interview in Doctor Who magazine, said something along the lines of, in the 60s, mothers in America were naming their children with long, ostentatious names. And so John Nathan Turner wanted to kind of say that she was upper-class American, and so that's kind of the direction they were going on, but it's dumb.
Something that would sound like really American would be like Elaine or something like that. Let's be honest. Just a very generic name.
It does not work. So Peri's fine. Let's just leave it at Peri.
There's a whole article on it trying to go into potential different meanings. I just don't think there is one.
I guess we need to move Sarn along a little bit. We've been talking about the Master and Peri and the Doctor not paying for water. So over at Sarn, we have a little bit more of a development because of Logar.
I feel like the Sarn storyline's pretty basic. You have the believers, you have the unbelievers. They're kind of at war with each other. And then our travelers, being the TARDIS crew plus the Master, come in and fuck things up.
It really feels unnecessary. I don't understand what the purpose of Sarn is other than to get rid of Turlough.
That's exactly the purpose. Is to give Turlough his origin story and the reason for him to go home.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we shouldn't be upset with that. We get to get rid of Turlough.
I know.
We've been liking Turlough the last few stories.
Yeah.
One story.
Gotten better.
One story.
2 stories. We liked him in Frontios and Resurrection of the Daleks.
I only kind of was okay with him in Resurrection. I was not as big of a fan of Resurrection, but that's okay. We'll move on.
And even generally liking him. I'm glad he gets to go home.
Yeah, we'll come back to that at the end.
Well, I mean, going where we are in the story towards the end of part 2 now, I would assume we're going to kind of speed run through Sarn. This is the part where we have the believers, the unbelievers, and the master getting the believers on his side and then turning the believers against our TARDIS crew and then trying to roast them or burn them. And that's our part 2 cliffhanger, I believe.
It is.
The music was really good, I thought, in that about to burn them scene. I really enjoyed that. It was a nice touch.
I wondered why the Doctor was so willing to shoot everybody last story and wasn't willing to fight his way out of a kiln for this story.
Yeah, it does seem like a little bit of a disconnect. But as we move into part 3, we start with that amazing line from the Master. Your cremation will deprive me of our periodic encounter. He really wants to be kissed. Really, really. Like, he looks forward to these because he still hopes the Doctor's going to kiss him.
And they gave him some pretty good lines.
They did.
In this story. There were some very good master moments.
They set him up perfectly just so they can have him fall. I wanted to, at this point, bring up Peri somehow just sliding right in with the TARDIS crew and just rolling with it immediately. No questions, no like, what the hell is going on? Why is everyone dressed like this? Where are we? Nothing. Sci-fi things and going off here and there. No worries, just right off her shoulder.
She's a cool American botany student who is going to go off with a bunch of English lads that she's just met. She is quite clearly used to rolling with the punches here, Reilly. Don't question it.
Okay, all right. Sure.
Always question. Always.
But more importantly, I was bothered that outside of all of that, which I guess can be looked over, it would have really been better if she actually had at least a short dialogue scene with Turlough and the Doctor separately so we can get at least an establishment of their relationship, because we don't really have, in my opinion, any sort of thing like that, any sort of scene until the very, very end between her and the Doctor, where it says, sure, okay, yeah, you want to travel with me, that's it. But there's no real idea of what the basis of their relationship is. It's really as a blank canvas. It's almost like a person trying to hitch a ride and an unknown driver saying, sure, come on in.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Did they do that on purpose because they knew that Davison was leaving?
Good point.
There really should have been a moment of, excuse me, who the fuck are you guys?
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Even the first time she says the Doctor and Turlough's name, I thought, how does she know?
Yep, I felt
They didn't
the
even
same
introduce themselves.
It's rushed there. Like you said, Julie, I understand because Davison is leaving and Turlough's leaving, but this is important for us to understand Peri.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming she's going to be around for a little bit longer. So I think it would be interesting to know how she would be with these people and how when they react to her, but we don't get that.
Because they even reinforce that when the Doctor first leaves the TARDIS, he refers to Peri as that girl. He doesn't even know her name when he's left the TARDIS the first time. And then they don't see each other for like a year and a half.
It's just weird. I don't know. I feel like they could have fit that in there. You know, less Sarn, more character development there, please.
100%. That is distinctly missing. But to be fair, I do feel like Peter Grimwade had an awful lot to do in this story in terms of introducing the new companion, wrapping up Chameleon, bringing the Master back,
wrapping up Turlough,
and giving Turlough an actual backstory.
His whole character basically is in this story.
Yeah. Crying shame we didn't get that far earlier, but what can you do?
For this to be a Turlough send-off, he really should have had one more Black Guardian monologue just for old time's sake.
The thing that I get frustrated about and why I don't necessarily like it so much for a Turlough send-off is because you're also trying to introduce Peri. Peri gets paired off with the Doctor a bunch in some ways, and Turlough still continues his, I don't really want to be a part of this for as long as he possibly can, because Turlough is a coward ultimately. And then at the end, they're like, oh, well, you can come back and it's going to be okay because we're not killing prisoners anymore. And it just seems it didn't feel very heroic when he goes back. It seems like he's just like, I guess I'm going back. Anyway, that's getting to the end.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily like how they handled that whole piece.
We'll come back to that because he does have some good moments. In part 3, he steps up and he's showing off his brand. He's like, I'm the new chosen one. You'll have shot Malcon and I'm stepping up and taking on that role.
And the moment he realizes that he's with his brother, I think everything changes for him. And I think that Strickson did a very good job of having Turlough change throughout this story. Because at the beginning, he is the same annoying Turlough. He zaps Chameleon and then decides to go save the drowning stranger. Like, okay. By the end, with the character growth that happens through forcibly being reconnected with family and his heritage, I think that's an interesting look at the fact that he's been running away from who he is the whole time. And now he has to deal with it.
Yeah, I actually think that's pretty well done.
Fine.
And he had cute little yellow socks.
Bless his little cotton socks, as we say back home. That's the British version of bless your heart, by the way.
Oh, is it? I might pick that one up.
Couple of things. Firstly, the Master shows Peri his not penis, his tissue compression eliminator, and then threatens her with shrinkage, which probably what Turlough had after going in the cold ocean. And it's all just a bit weird until we encounter Tiny Master.
Tiny Master.
And as I said, hold me closer, Tiny Master.
I actually really liked that reveal. I thought it was going to be some stupid little machine in there that was in the box. That was a great reveal.
It was.
I loved it.
I completely agree.
It was the best. I'm so happy to see him actually get his basically comeuppance. And it's wonderful.
I would have loved more shots of him like scurrying around, running around the TARDIS console, and she's got like a fly swatter trying to get him, and he's just kind of he's just running around.
She started chasing him with that shoe, and I just about fell out.
Oh my god.
It was so funny. I could do 4 episodes of Tiny Master scurrying around.
I've seen this done, and I think it was the movie Willow, maybe, but in a fantasy or sci-fi film, when someone gets miniaturized like that, their voice gets really high and squeaky. Mm-hmm. They should have done that with him. That would have just added so much more to the comedy there. That would have been great.
I also want to talk about the Chameleon Master when the flames are showing up, because he appears to kind of orgasm a little bit, and it's just extremely, extremely camp.
He also does a couple of strong constipation faces.
Yeah.
He's transitioning between Howard and the Master and Chameleon.
Ainley is definitely doing some very interesting things in this story. The other thing I want to quickly touch on in part 3 before we move into part 4 is when the Doctor is interrogating Turlough on what the people of Trion were doing on Sarn. And the point where he's like, if you're holding back anything that will help the Master, our friendship is over. Good for you, Doctor, being assertive for a change.
Yeah.
We've got the Tiny Master. He says, you escaped from my slave, but you will obey me or die. And that's our cliffhanger. And we're into part 4. Diana mentioned Peri with the shoe. And all I was doing was imagining how happy, Reilly, you would have been.
I was.
If Peri had squished him like a cockroach.
Oh, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Either that or stomp him, just with her foot. Oh my God. That was such a wonderful, enjoyable scene. Not just for me personally, but I just thought it was funny and cool. And also at that point, it does say something about Peri, the character. She does not seem to be intimidated at all by the Master, in my opinion.
If she had got him, Reilly, would you have been praising Logar?
I would have been praising Logar, and I would have been saying Peri, top companion, number 1 of all time.
And not just because of her titties.
Hey, now.
And I would love her, too, if there had been some other reason that she didn't hit him other than a sudden sneeze attack.
Oh, okay. Good point.
Allergies to the dust on Sarn are an absolute bitch.
Oh my God, Anthony, I swear to God. This headcanon, man.
Oh, I think that's ridiculous too. I mean...
I was so mad.
They could have used a part where the Master finds a little crevice to hide in. I don't know.
She could have thrown that chancla and she could have missed, and he scurries off into a hole.
There you go. Boom, you got it.
But a sneeze...
I do want to touch on Turlough's full backstory, which we finally get in part 4. So his family were basically on the wrong side of a civil war on Trion. His brother and his father were sent into exile on Sarn, while Turlough was sent to Earth. And apparently there are Trion agents everywhere, including an eccentric solicitor on Chancery Lane, which, to put that in English terms, solicitors are lawyers, and Chancery Lane is the main street in London where all the lawyers have their offices. So I kind of love that. It's so wonderfully weird that there's a resident of Tryon pretending to be a lawyer in London.
It's right next to all of the Dalek sleeper agents.
Yeah.
I will also say I really loved Turlough just being like, I hope they don't send me back to the worst place on earth, English public school.
And of course, in the English vernacular, English public school is actually private school.
Yes.
Looking at this wrap up on Turlough, maybe we could have had Ibbotson return just to say goodbye to him.
Fuck you, Reilly. Get out. You're fired. We're bringing Alan in.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about what the Master's actually trying to do here. So we have our little magic flames here, the magic volcanic flames of Logar, which of course it was tied into a little bit earlier, but the Tryons became the gods toward the Sarn people.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of thing. I can't remember that callback to the science fiction novel that was treated about the idea of ancient Egyptians being aliens. I can't remember the name of that. We have that point. And so because the Master is all small and miniaturized, his goal is to get into the magic flames.
Yep, to restore himself from being tiny.
Mini Master.
Mini Master. I feel like it's pretty important to talk about the fate of Chameleon here.
Is it though?
Yes. Well, if nothing else, for the actions of the Doctor.
Yeah. Okay.
Because as he reverts to Silver Howard, he apologizes and begs to be destroyed, turns into Robot Chameleon, and then the Doctor just zaps him with the tissue compression eliminator. It's savage. And then the Doctor just gets on with other things, but he does sound just a tiny bit upset about what he's just had to do. Or maybe I was projecting on him.
No, I agree with you completely. Yeah. What I thought was interesting about that scene, and maybe this was me projecting my up to this point disappointment with the Fifth Doctor, and I swear it was in the way the scene was shot. I was expecting Peri to do it. And I was thinking, like, you can't let Peri do this. It has to be the Doctor. If she was going to attempt to do that, the Doctor would have jumped in and done it himself. So I'm glad they didn't do that. But I swear for a minute there, in the way it was shot, it looked like they were hinting that it could have been her.
I think it had to be the Doctor. It either had to be the Doctor or he had to betray the Master and the Master do it. Those are the only two who could kill Chameleon. And there's also that line about effectively how the Master was always in contact with Chameleon. Wow, the whole time he was on board the TARDIS, where we barely saw him, he was effectively the Master's agent. Brutal.
Really? Brutal? Brutal's the word we're going to use?
Maybe not brutal.
Okay.
You know, he was just lying on the floor, plugged into the wall in the back.
Yeah, maybe missed opportunity would be it.
Yeah,
Yes.
Definitely a missed opportunity.
Absolutely, that's the word.
Imagine Chameleon just deliberately piloting the TARDIS to some really shitty locations in the hope that the Doctor would get killed and pretending it was Turlough all along. That would have been amazing.
And hey, let's not forget, at the beginning of this year, Turlough was messing with the console.
Yeah.
That would have actually made interesting storyline for Turlough, is if Chameleon's running havoc because he's actually a Master agent. And Turlough's like, I'm just trying to figure my shit out.
Being a petulant late teenager who looks like he's actually 30. To be fair, I do think Mark Strickson was in his early 20s. So when I say actually 30, I'm doing him a disservice.
Is it time to talk about our big ending here?
I think so.
All right. Because, God, this scene is absolutely delicious.
The twink who is captaining the Tryon ship, is that what you're talking about, Reilly?
No.
I didn't think so.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Oh, it is so wonderful and so hilarious. It literally is just two comic beats away from being straight comedy, other than, of course, the Doctor's expression at the end of it. But for the Master to have his bravado, I shall come from this fire 1,000 times stronger to hound you to the borders of the universe. And then suddenly going, oh, cancel the ray injection immediately. Just that flip is so funny. The only thing they could have done to really just go over the top with it would have been when the flame turns, him going, it's a little warm in here, and just kind of build it up. But my goodness.
And then immediately melts down into Crispy Master.
What a lost opportunity that is. Really, that Crispy Master should have been the Master after this one.
Him basically begging for his survival as the Doctor just watches.
Watches.
And then he just gets into the TARDIS and leaves. This is the 10th Doctor dishing out vengeance and then just swanning off as if nothing happened.
Maybe what affects my reading of the Doctor with Chameleon is because right now the Doctor's in a cold-hearted place. And so I didn't actually read any empathy with Chameleon. And then it was doubled down by watching somebody burn.
Yeah.
Especially one that you know, that you grew up with. Like, I get that they're frenemies, but they still knew each other. Like, that's brutal.
You would do this to your own brother, boyfriend, frenemy. Insert your thing of choice there.
Yeah, like all you want to do is kiss you.
Yeah. And you let him burn, you bastard.
Yeah, it's really intense.
You're right. Towards the end, when you see Davison's face, it brings the seriousness to the scene.
And mirroring it against the camp of what Ainley is doing in the fire, which is crazy. And then you're immediately brought to like, yeah, but this is serious.
It's funny you mention that because there's a really interesting kind of emotive thread here, because not to get really, really sad, but you could say that to the Master, he's playing a part. He is himself being tongue-in-cheek, perhaps, when he says things like, I shall come from this fire 1,000 times stronger, blah, ha, ha, ha. Maybe to him, this is a game. This is just a silly, fun little game, like a child's game. The disconnect between the two of them could be very sad and tragic from the perspective of the Master.
And it's crazy because this time the Master just wanted to be life-size. There was no plan to kill anybody. Well, I guess he was willing to kill people along the way because he's the Master. But he's not planning on world dominance. That's not this plan. This plan is just to return to a normal human-sized body.
It's an interesting way of looking at that last scene. You can look at it humorously, or you can look at it with a very somber tone to it.
Yeah, humorous.
Yeah, it is effectively the Master just running around trying to be noticed by the Doctor, and then the Doctor just watches him burn. It's it's a pretty brutal response.
Now it's our Turlough goodbye.
Before we get onto that, when Peri asks the Doctor if he's okay, and he says, yes, of course I'm all right, it's like, are you though, Doctor? I don't think you are. I think you've had this poker face on here, but this is your childhood friend you've just watched burn.
And I did appreciate that moment of horror for him.
All right, Turlough's goodbye. The Tryon ship, captained by Captain Twink, arrives, and his exile's been rescinded.
Seems too easy.
Well, regimes change, but the Doctor will miss him. Turlough doesn't actually want to leave, but knows he needs to go home. And then he tells Peri to look after the Doctor, because Turlough's done such a good job of looking after the Doctor.
Turlough does shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We say goodbye to Turlough, and I'm happy about that. But what does upset me, and actually it upsets me quite a bit, is that Turlough got a much better send-off than most of the companions we have seen so far. And when you consider how much better those companions are, it's really kind of shitty that...
Yeah.
Turlough is the one that seems to get a fantastic send-off. The Doctor seems emotive here and just feels like the show cares more about Turlough leaving than it did about Sarah Jane leaving.
To be fair, he was clearly deeply impacted by Tegan leaving in the previous story as well. So this is a Doctor who's finally feeling things for his companions. He even gave Nyssa a little kiss when she left.
Ugh.
And we get him being a moody bastard in the story after Adric died. So
When is he not a moody bastard?
that's true. That's true. But this is why I want to give props to Peter Grimwade here, because this era of Doctor Who is very much structured like a soap opera. You have multiple threads going on in any given plot. You effectively have a more serialized style of storytelling where you have 2 episodes back to back each week, much like a soap opera would. And I think Grimwade is the only writer who's really got it in how a story should be structured around that. And he does it well. And that's what we see in this goodbye as well. I think he does a good job.
Yeah, it's well written. I just wish Better Companions had such a well-written send-off.
I agree. And then we end with the Doctor telling Peri that he needs to get her home, and she says, oh, must you? And wants to travel with him. So she has just met a different English-coded lad to go on adventures with. He probably won't sleep with her like those 2 English lads she wanted to go with would have wanted to. But he says, yeah, sure, you can come with me for 3 months. And then the TARDIS lurches and it's welcome aboard, Peri, and that's the end of our story.
It's not going to be 3 months.
No, and we're in for a wild ride.
And she did not know she should have brought a suitcase.
Yeah. Luckily, the TARDIS has a good wardrobe.
We'll see.
Or it's the 80s, so questionable wardrobe.
Yeah, because this fit was not fitting. I was not a fan. Those shorts, all of the shorts in this one were a problem.
12-year-old me was a big fan of the bikini.
Yeah, because it also meant that when she was wearing her shirt, her boobs had no support.
Oh, the running scenes.
The running.
Pissed me off.
12-year-old Anthony was very happy.
I'm about to slap 12-year-old Anthony through the mic in time.
38-year-old Anthony realizes that this is fairly problematic, but yeah, very formative to teenage Anthony. Oh boy. All right. Running metrics. So it was suggested on Discord that we add a Peri peril count. So we're going to add that as a new metric. We've had some short-lived ones before, like Pertwee Gun and Should Have Listened to Vicky and Vicky Pet Name and the Ian and Barbara murder counts, the Philip Hinchcliffe women count.
Yeah.
I think Peri was in peril no less than 3 occasions in this story.
We have the drowning.
The drowning, the first time she was faced with the Chameleon Master, and then when she was also threatened with the TCE by the Chameleon Master.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, we're giving that a 3. No jelly babies, no quarries. Anyone catch any I'll explain laters?
Nope.
There is a you'll see, but no, I'll explain later.
Camp count. Ainley chewing the scenery. How many does that get?
Say 2.
Okay. Anything for Peter Wingard?
I'm not feeling it. Anybody else?
I didn't find this story particularly worth for this.
I kind of want to give 1 point to Silver Howard, but
Fine.
He can have it for his constipation transition face.
there we go. Love the constipation transition face.
And his David Byrne dance moves.
Love that. Well, that brings us to actually rating. And Diana, you have the privilege of going first this time.
Considering that this is coming to a close with 5 and saying goodbye to Turlough and saying hello to Peri and reincorporating the Master because of contract bullshit and saying goodbye to Chameleon, that is a lot to put into one story. And so giving that those constraints are there, I still did not really enjoy this story other than the Master. I didn't think that much else super mattered totally. And I found the Doctor quite flat for this story. Peri, I don't know, the back and forth between what she's going to hold as a female companion is a tough back and forth. And the booby shots were not helpful in me liking this story. The Master was super fun, and the miniature Master is some of my favorite scene work I have seen in this story. He was absolutely fabulous, scampering all in through the computer, in the console. Oh, he was so funny. I really enjoyed it. I'm very middle of the road, so it is a 5 out of 10 hiked up, rolled up booty shorts.
All right. Well, I'm next, and I'm going to get the obvious one out of the way. 12-year-old me gives +1 point for Peri's titties. 38-year-old me gives -1 point for the objectification of Peri, so that balances out at a solid 0 extra or negative points around that. I actually thought the Doctor was really good in this, particularly in the last episode. I thought Davison did a great job at his complete cold-heartedness as the Master burns, his sadness at Turlough leaving, his eventual excitement about Peri joining, and just running around having an interesting time. Turlough's departure, solid. I really appreciate us finally getting a backstory for Turlough. That's not this story's fault that it took so long for us to get one, so I'm not going to hold it against this story. I actually think that's a positive for this story, and I enjoyed hearing about where Turlough came from and why he's here and why he was on Earth, and we finally got a first name for him. Overall, there's nothing particularly offensive about this story. I think it's relatively fun. I enjoyed watching it. It's nothing amazing, but it's not bad. And so for me, it gets 6.5 tiny masters out of 10. Julie, over to you.
I think I'm going to side a little bit more with Diana on this one. Immediately was getting a little bit turned off, surprising, by the weird choice of clothing that we decided to do for this entire story. I really liked the location filming. I thought that was very well done, and I really liked the bits with the Master, and I'm very happy that Turlough is going to be gone, but I'm not entirely sure that I like Peri, who's going to be replacing Turlough. So that could just end up being a balance of, okay, well, it's about status quo. I do agree with Anthony that I think Davison did do a good job with what he had to do in the story. So I'm going to give this 5.5 really unnecessary bikini shots out of 10.
All right, Reilly, take it away.
I really enjoy this one. Strangely enough, it was because the Master was in it. Such a switch here.
Things we never thought you would say for 100, please, Alex.
But I guess what happens is that it's kind of like Game of Thrones with Joffrey. People hate the character. Well, they hate Joffrey because Joffrey is a horrible person. I hated the Master because I hated the schemes. I thought he was badly used as a character. But in both scenarios, people got really happy when you got to see the episode where they either were killed or just got really beat up a lot. And I got this. And it was really enjoyable and it was hilarious. A lot of unintentional humor. Peri's an interesting addition. We'll see what happens. My concern at first was that she seemed to be a bit pouty at the beginning, especially on the boat with Howard. But then she seems to handle the alien world and the strange sci-fi scenarios that she's in without even a flinch. And I did like the fact that she was ready to charge at the Master and attack him, kind of Tegan-esque in a way. So that was good. The location shooting was gorgeous. I thought that even if the plot wasn't really that new in regards to the Sarns and the Trions, that it did move pretty well. So it was pretty quick. That was helpful. I already mentioned my concerns about Turlough's farewell, but Anthony is correct that it was done well. I just wish it wasn't used for this character. It was used for other companions. I enjoyed myself. I will give this one 8 flambéed masters out of 10.
Wow, I was not expecting that. Good for you, Reilly. Well, that gives this story a story average of 6.25, places it roughly in the middle of this season so far. So not great, not terrible. That said, I forgot to ask a very important question last time, and I need to ask it this time because we haven't asked it since Frontios. Reilly, is he the Doctor yet?
Yes. And because you didn't ask me last time, I was waiting for you to do it because I was going to say, I feel like this is now the time. I feel it now in the Dalek serial. I feel it. But you didn't ask me.
I know, I forgot. I got carried away.
So he was the Doctor going into this one, and there was nothing in here in this serial that made me regret my decision. So I said it before in Frontios that he was there right at the end.
Yep.
And we were going to see, he had to be the Doctor in more than half, and he was in the Dalek serial. So we're there.
All right.
So in my rewatch of the Fifth Doctor, I'm just going to fast forward to the last 3 serials.
I'm not going to lie. I was really, really hoping it wasn't going to be until the Caves of Androzani. Because I thought that would have been so funny if the answer had been no all through his tenure, only to get it for the last story. Cool. So as of Resurrection of the Daleks, that's a yes from all 4 of us. That brings us to the end of the episode, and we will be back next time for P. Dave's final story as the Doctor in the Caves of Androzani. And I'm never going to call him P. Dave again. That was a bad idea. I apologize for that, dear listener.
That was amazing. That's all we're going to do next time.
I'm going to tell him that you said this.
Yes, do that.
Has anybody ever called you P. Dave before?
To be fair, I do also refer to Peter Capaldi as PCAP.
Oh,
anyway,
no.
In the meantime, thank you, dear listener, so very much for listening. And of course, until next time, have a good one. You have been listening to Watchers in the Fourth Dimension with Diana Burney, Reilly Schreck, Julie Philippek, and myself, Anthony Williams. This episode, Hold Me Closer, Tiny Master, was recorded on Wednesday the 21st of January 2026. If this is your first time listening into the show, all of our previous episodes are available wherever you like to get your podcasts. You can interact with us on Facebook and Instagram at Watchers4D, by email at watchers4d@gmail.com, and on our Discord server. The link to that is in the show below. If you're enjoying the show, please do subscribe and consider leaving us a review or rating on your favorite podcasting app. All of those things really do help the show. And always remember, this was the story where Reilly finally accepted both Davison as the Doctor and Ainley as the Master.